Verse 441. The ignorant imagine that things originate from the accumulation of qualities, or atoms, or substances. But there is not a single atom in existence, and therefore there is no external world. So remember, what's being challenged here is our assumption of an external world. It's an assumption that might seem quite outrageous to challenge. And for most people, it's not going to matter. But if you're an enlightenment practitioner and you've touched the true nature of our everyday awareness, and you feel that you've woken up from this dream that people call the world, then you'll be aware that there's a certain pressure to slip back into the dream, to fall asleep once again, and to forget our true nature. And this belief and this tendency is reinforced by the belief, the very fundamental belief in an external world. And this is one of the purposes of the Lankavatara Sutra, to undermine that belief. So here in this verse, we're told that the assumption is that the belief is reinforced. The belief in the reality of an external world is reinforced by the understanding that it's made up of atoms. Now, what atoms meant to the early Buddhists and what atoms mean to us now are probably quite different things. But we can go along with the modern understanding here. The belief that it's made up of atoms, we don't really want to question that, because that's what the scientists say. And the scientists know what they're talking about. They've given us technology. They've given us enhanced control over our environment. They can predict things. They can predict that if you set a certain experiment up in such a way, then this should happen. So, I don't want to knock that. I'm a big fan of science. That's fine. And most of us, we'd go along with this idea that the world is made up of atoms. So there is a world out there, and it's made up of these tiny little things called atoms. I'm reminded of a little video that I saw recently, produced by IBM. They've actually got the ability to manipulate atoms, and they can move them around like billiard balls and make them into shapes. And they made a little animation of a little atomic boy. But I don't think these are atoms in the true sense of the word, because these atoms will be made up of something else. We tend to think of an atom as a coherent system, but the true term of the word atom is fundamental particle, and atoms have got subatomic particles. And there are various theories about what the fundamental particle is, but that's not the point here. That is not the point. The point I'm getting at is, most of us, if asked, what is the world made up of, we'll say atoms. And what does that mean to us? Never mind what it means to the scientists, because if we get into more and more abstract dream worlds, when we ask what the scientists mean by atoms, but what does it mean to us? how do atoms actually figure in our reality? Well, let me show you something first of all. I'm going to show you a pretty picture. This picture is called The Boyhood of Raleigh by the pre-Raphaelite painter John Everett Millais. Now it's quite a picture, it's quite an evocative picture. It's the boyhood of Walter Raleigh. As many of you might know, he was one of the early British explorers who set out for the Americas and tried to establish a colony there. And he's also credited with fueling tales of El Dorado, the city of gold in South America. And you can see in this picture that some old sea dog is spinning yarns of lands across the sea, which young boys of every age are entranced by. So it's a very well executed and evocative painting, like many of the pre-Raphaelite paintings are. And if I told you as you're looking at this painting, well, actually you're not really looking at a painting, you're looking at pixels on your viewing device. Well, you might say, yes, okay, but that's true, but it's not really the point, is it? It's not really the point. It's a beautiful picture. Sure, it's pixels, but these pixels represent a real painting. It's the real painting that we're interested in, that these pixels represent. So, yes, it's true, the picture's made up of pixels, but it's hardly relevant. So, okay, we could go off to have a look at where this painting is hanging. We could head off to the Tate Gallery in London and have a look at it and see the painting in all its original glory, and we can appreciate the artistry of it and the feelings that it evokes. And then if I said to you, but it's just atoms, isn't it? Well, it'd be a rather stupid thing to say. It's not the point at all. The reality, well, according to the scientific story, is it's made up of atoms. It's just a rearrangement of atoms. It'd be a completely incongruous, ridiculous thing to say. It misses the point completely. It's true. Well, if you believe the scientific story, it's true. But it's not the point. It's not the point. It's completely irrelevant. And we're just talking about one painting here. The fact that it's made up of atoms is completely irrelevant. But what about the rest of the world? How relevant is the fact that it's made up of atoms to us? The reality of these atoms, which constitute Millais' painting, is completely irrelevant, unless you're somehow wanting to destroy the painting to release the inherent energy potential within the atoms that constitute it. But then the painting becomes completely insignificant. So what is more real? The painting or the atoms? Now you might say the atoms, but that means absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. And you are also no more than a bunch of atoms. Is that how you think of yourself? Is that how you relate to yourself? Is that how you relate to your nearest and dearest who are also bunches of atoms? Saying that something is made up of atoms, unless you're an atomic physicist, is completely irrelevant. And even if you are an atomic physicist, it's not how you go around relating to the world. You only relate to the world as atoms when you're actually working on your atomic physics. So we all like to pretend that we're little rational scientists when it suits us. But the reality of atoms is a total abstraction. It is not the reality that we inhabit. You can go all theoretical as much as you like. It's not the reality that you and I inhabit. It's not even the reality that atomic physicists inhabit, except when they're doing their job. So can we conclude from this, as the verse says, that there is no external world? Well, where does this painting exist? It's a physical object out there. Where do colours exist? Do colours exist out there? Well, just like the scientist will tell us that, no, it's all atoms. He'll tell us that colours are frequencies, are particular frequencies of the electromagnetic spectrum. And now what's the reality of that? That's no more real than the reality of atoms. Colour is a particular experience. Colour is a particular experience. Blue is a particular experience. When we experience blue, when we enjoy the blue sky and the blue sea, are we reveling in the fact that it's a particular frequency of the electromagnetic spectrum? No, we're not. That's another way of describing it. That's a different story. A story we can tell ourselves if we want to somehow manipulate the world for greater control. No, blue is an experience. Just like music's an experience. It's more than vibrations in air, it's an experience. And in the same way, the world is an experience. We don't experience it as a bunch of atoms. We don't experience light as a collection of wavelengths. We don't experience music and sound as a series of compression and decompression of airwaves. Life, the world, is an experience. This is the world we inhabit. So let's not try and pretend otherwise. And where is experience? Right here. Right here. The world is here. The universe is here. Yet we're continuously putting it out there. And we do this with the help of the scientific stories, because science is trying to be objective. Fair enough. It's a worthwhile endeavour. But life, the world, is subjective. It's subjective. Verse 442 tells us, forms seen as external are due to the imagination of people. They are nothing but the mind itself. There is nothing to be seen externally, and therefore there is no external world. So forms are going on, stuff is going on. It's going on here, but we constantly put it outside ourselves. It's what we do in dreams. Dreams are completely internal, but we inhabit that space while it lasts. as an external world. Consciousness creates the illusion of externality. And this is referred to here as the imagination. It's how we imagine things to be. So come back to the understanding that it's all happening here. Because if you do this, if you can do this, if you can embrace everything as here, then the world becomes more vibrant. You even get a sense of what some might call presence, intelligence even. It becomes fresh once again. It becomes intimate. It has its own song to sing.